Hey, friends. Welcome back to Unlearning the Good Girl here on Embrace Your Value. Before we dive in, I want to say something. This episode might be one of those that you want to come back to with a notebook. So if you're driving, folding laundry, walking, or multitasking right now, that's okay. But maybe save this one because today's conversation may bring up some things worth sitting with. Today, we're talking about over-explaining. And honestly, this is one of the sneakiest self-abandonment patterns women have because most women don't even realize they're doing it. It sounds like, I can't make it because I have so much going on and my schedule is crazy and I just da 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 da. And we keep going with it. Or I'd love to help, but I already committed to this and this. I'm sorry, I just feel bad because, and then we give them a 5-minute dissertation of why we feel bad. And on the surface, it sounds harmless. It might even sound thoughtful. It might sound considerate. But most of the time, it's fear. Underneath over-explaining is usually one quiet question. Can I make this okay enough for you to accept it? That's really important because over-explaining is rarely about clarity. It's often about emotional management. Trying to manage someone else's disappointments, judgments, or keeping conflict at bay. And that means over-explaining is less about communication and more about self-protection. That's a pattern. I remember catching myself doing this years ago. I was saying no to something I genuinely did not have the capacity for. And instead of simply saying, no, I can't do this, this doesn't work for me, I gave a full explanation. 5 minutes worth. Why I was tired. What else I had going on. Why it wasn't personal. Why I wished I could. Why I felt that. And when I got through that, I had this moment where I thought, why am I working so hard to make a no easier for someone else? Why can't they just accept my no? And that stopped me. Because what I realized was I wasn't really communicating. I was negotiating. I was negotiating my worth, my right to have limits, whether my needs were valid enough to matter. And so many of us do this, not because we're weak, because somewhere along the way, we learned that a boundary is safer if people understand it. But here's the thing. Sometimes people will understand your boundary and still not like it, no matter how much you explain it. And the more you explain, the more ammunition you give them. The more they have to come back at you and say, well, you could not do this for this person so that you could do this for me. You've experienced this, right? We all have. And this is where the real work begins. Because if our boundaries only feel safe when they're fully approved, they're not really boundaries yet. It's still permission seeking. And I know this is all hard to hear, but let it be freeing for you. I worked with this woman one time who told me she spent 45 minutes. Think about this. 45 minutes drafting a text to tell someone she couldn't help with something. 45 minutes. Not because the message was complicated, because she was trying to control how it would land, trying to make sure it didn't upset them, trying to sound kind enough, trying to sound justified enough, trying to make sure they didn't think she was selfish. And honestly, how many of us have done that? We've rewritten the text, added more context, explained more, softened it, apologized. Not because we owe anyone that, because we don't. I tell clients all the time, you don't owe anyone an explanation. And that's true. It's true for them. It's true for you. It's true for me. But we do it because we're trying to manage their discomfort. And here's what I really want you to hear. Over-explaining is exhausting because every time you over-explain, you reinforce the belief to yourself that my no needs to be earned. That's the hidden cost. And over time, that creates resentment, anxiety, decision fatigue, self-doubt, a weaker relationship with yourself. Because your nervous system learns my needs are only okay if they make sense to everyone else. That's not self-trust. That's self-abandonment. I know that sounds like big and dramatic, but it's true. And all those little things, little times of self-abandonment, that's how we get to this place where we feel like we have no worth, where we don't deserve anything, where everybody else's needs matter and ours don't. I want you to pause here. And if you have a notebook, write these down. I'm going to give you some journal prompts. Sit with them. Be honest. Where in my life do I over-explain most? Is there a specific person that you always over-explain to because they kind of trigger that? Is there a situation? I know for me, I have certain months where grief tends to creep in from things that have happened at those times. And sometimes I find these sorts of things falling back in. I spend more time over-explaining. I spend more time second-guessing. That's all self-abandonment. And that's what I go back to. So I have to catch myself in those moments. So where in my life do I over-explain most? And you don't have to answer all these. Answer what feels right for you. The next question is, what am I afraid will happen if I simply tell the truth? Will they get angry? Will they be disappointed? Will I feel guilty? All of those things can be worked through. And if they get angry and they get disappointed and they take it back on you, that's for them to own. They need to start working on themselves, not you. Don't own that. Don't wear that as a badge of honor because it's not a badge of honor. It's self-abandonment. The next question. Who am I trying to protect when I over-explain? Are you trying to protect yourself or are you trying to protect that other person? Either way, you're going to end up hurt. You're going to end up frustrated. You're going to end up sad. What feels unsafe about disappointing people? Maybe as a child, your parents said, I'm disappointed in you rather than saying I'm angry with you. And so now when people say they're disappointed with you, that childhood trauma comes up. That's the feeling you get. And do I believe my needs are valid without proving them? Do you believe you deserve what you're saying without having to over-explain it to prove it? Can you simply say, that doesn't work for me and be good with it? Because that's what we're looking for. You don't have to answer these questions now. You don't have to answer them all at once, and you don't have to answer them all. But they matter. And they can change a lot. because awareness creates choice. When you know what's going on, you can change the choices that you make. And choices change patterns. When you make different choices, your brain registers it differently, and therefore you start to change your patterns. When you say no and you don't back down from that, yes, you might feel guilty, but you realize that guilt is just because you did something differently, and you sit in that discomfort and you stay okay in it. The next time it's going to be less. And then the next time it's less. And pretty soon, you're not going to have guilt at all for saying no because you know it's the right thing to do for you. If you're realizing today that over-explaining has become your way of managing other people's emotions, don't just sit with that. Start with this free resource, and you can download my Choose You Reflection Guide at www.thankfulheartscoaching.com/choose-you. It's going to be in the comments or down in the show notes, but make sure you start there because it will help you to start identifying the patterns we're uncovering in this series and what they may be costing you. If this episode brought something up for you or stirred up questions, you can email me. And I'm serious about this. I love to hear what's coming up for you. I love to talk women or men through this. You can always reach me at thankfulheartscoaching@gmail.com. And before we go, I want you to sit with this. What would it feel like to trust that your no is enough without explanation? That's your work this week. I will see you next time.